Days turned into weeks. Amanda quickly learned that living in the mansion was not as easy as she had once thought. There were strict routines to follow. Breakfast was served at exactly 7 o'clock. The floors had to be mopped before the sun rose high. Every piece of furniture had to shine like glass. Any mistake, even a small one, was punished with sharp words from Mabel or the cold, disappointed silence from Grace. But Amanda worked hard. She woke early, tied Hope securely on her back, and moved from room to room with the broom, the mop, and the dustcloth. Sometimes her hands bled from scrubbing too hard. Sometimes she cried silently into her pillow late at night when Hope was asleep. But she never stopped. She had made a promise to herself and to her little girl. She would not be thrown out. She would build a better life. William stayed mostly out of sight. Sometimes Amanda caught a glimpse of him passing through the hallway or sitting quietly in the garden under the old mango tree. He was always alone, always silent. One morning, Amanda was cleaning the tall windows in the living room when she heard voices outside. She peeped through the glass. Williams was sitting in the garden with a man wearing a black suit. The man looked serious, holding a thick file in his hands. "I do not care about the elections," Williams said, his voice carrying through the open window. "You should care," the man replied. "The party wants you to run for governor next year. Your name is strong. People trust you." Williams shook his head slowly. "Trust is a heavy thing," he said, "and I have no strength left to carry it." The man sighed. "You cannot hide forever, Williams. The world is waiting for you." Amanda quickly moved away from the window, pretending to clean another corner. She did not want to be caught eavesdropping, but the words stayed with her. The world is waiting for you. Later that day, after cleaning the kitchen and putting Hope down for her afternoon nap, Amanda wandered into the backyard garden to gather herbs for Grace. The garden was full of colourful flowers, roses, lilies, and hibiscus. A soft breeze brushed her face. For the first time in a long while, Amanda allowed herself to breathe deeply. Suddenly, she heard footsteps. She turned quickly. It was Williams. Amanda froze, unsure if she should bow, speak, or run. But he only looked at her, his expression unreadable. "You like the garden?" he asked, his voice low. Amanda nodded quickly. "Yes, sir," she said. "It reminds me of home, before everything changed." Williams tilted his head slightly. "You are from the village?" Amanda nodded again. "Yes, sir. We had a small farm. My mother grew peppers and tomatoes. My father raised goats." Something flickered in William's eyes, something almost like sadness. "It is a good thing," he said after a moment, "to remember where you come from." Amanda looked at him carefully. His voice was softer now, not sharp like before. "I have to finish, sir," she said, lifting her basket. Williams nodded and turned away, walking slowly back to the house. Amanda stood for a while, holding the basket tightly. It was the first time he had spoken to her like a real person, not just a servant. Maybe, she thought, there were cracks in his wall after all. The rain poured down heavily that night. Thunder rolled across the sky, shaking the windows of the mansion. Amanda sat by the small lamp in her room, rocking Hope gently in her arms. Every loud crack of thunder made Hope whimper and bury her face in Amanda's neck. There, my darling," Amanda whispered, patting her gently. "Mama is here. You are safe." But even Amanda's voice shook a little. The storm felt too big, too wild, like it was stirring something inside the house itself. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from downstairs. Hope cried harder. Amanda placed her gently on the bed, wrapped her tightly in a blanket, and rushed out of the room. She hurried down the long hallway, her bare feet making soft slapping sounds against the cold floor. When she reached the grand staircase, she paused. In the dim light, she saw Williams. He was in the sitting room, standing over a broken picture frame. Glass shards glittered around his feet. His back was to her, his shoulders stiff. Amanda's heart thudded painfully.
she should turn back. This was not her business. But something in the way he stood, so broken, so lost, rooted her to the spot. Slowly, she stepped closer. The broken frame held a photo, a beautiful woman with warm eyes and a wide smile.
Next to her was a little girl with curly hair, laughing and holding a teddy bear. Amanda's throat tightened. This was his family. Suddenly, Williams turned. His eyes were wild, filled with pain and anger. "What are you doing here?" he barked. Amanda flinched. I heard the noise. I thought, I am sorry, sir." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The rain slammed against the windows. The lights flickered. Williams pressed a hand against his forehead, closing his eyes. "You should not have seen this," he said, his voice lower now, tired. Amanda lowered her head. "I did not mean to pry," she whispered. Silence stretched between them, heavy and sad. Then, without warning, William sank into the armchair nearby, burying his face in his hands. Amanda stood there, frozen. She wanted to run. She wanted to stay. In the end, her heart won. Quietly, she walked into the kitchen, fetched a broom and dustpan, and returned to the sitting room. She knelt and began to sweep the broken glass, careful not to make a sound. Williams watched her through his fingers. "You do not have to," he said hoarsely. Amanda kept sweeping. "It is my job, sir," she said simply. When she finished, she placed the photo carefully on the side table, the cracks in the glass still visible, but the faces inside untouched. "They are beautiful," Amanda said softly, without looking up. Williams was silent for a long time. Then he spoke, his voice almost a whisper. "My wife was named Isabella. My daughter was Hannah. They died 2 years ago. A plane crash. I could not save them." Amanda swallowed the lump in her throat. "I am sorry, sir," she said. Another long silence. "I have not been the same since," Williams admitted. "I built this house for them, filled it with things they loved. Now it is just empty." Amanda looked around the grand room, the soft toys on the shelf, the colourful paintings, the musical box on the fireplace. It was a house built with love. And now it was a house haunted by grief. "I understand a little," Amanda said quietly. "Life has not been easy for me either. My father died when I was young. My brother left the village and we have not heard from him again. My sister Ruth fell sick during a rainy season and she did not survive. Now it is just my mother and me." Williams lifted his head and looked at her properly for the first time. "You still try to smile," he said, his voice rough. Amanda lowered her gaze, feeling a lump in her throat. "Because I have to," she whispered. "For my mother, for hope." For a moment, something passed between them, an invisible thread woven out of shared pain and quiet strength. Williams leaned back in the chair, closing his eyes. "You are stronger than you look," he said softly. Amanda gathered the dustpan and broom and started to walk away. But just as she reached the door, she heard his voice again. "Thank you," he said. Amanda paused, then nodded without turning. "You are welcome, sir." She climbed the stairs back to her room, her heart heavy and full at the same time. Hope was fast asleep, her tiny chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. Amanda lay beside her, listening to the rain and the thunder fading into the distance. She had seen another side of Williams tonight. Not the cold, distant man everyone feared, but a father, a husband, a man with a broken heart. And somewhere deep inside her, something stirred. Not pity, not fear, but a small, fragile thread of understanding. Maybe, just maybe, there was still hope in this mansion full of ghosts. The next morning, Amanda woke to the sound of soft knocking. She rubbed her eyes and sat up quickly. "Come in," she called. Mabel pushed the door open, holding a basket. "Sir sent these," she said sharply, dropping the basket on the table. "You should be grateful." Amanda nodded politely.
Thank you.
Mabel gave her a hard look before walking away. Amanda sighed and looked into the basket. Inside, there were a few clean clothes for Hope, some fresh fruits, and a tiny bottle of lotion. Amanda smiled a little. She could tell this was not Mabel's idea. It had to be from Sir William's. She fed Hope, dressed her carefully, and tidied their small room. Then, tying a scarf over her hair, she made her way downstairs. The house was unusually quiet. Amanda peeked into the kitchen and found it empty. No sign of Mabel. Good. She decided to clean the front sitting room first. As she worked, she hummed a soft tune her mother used to sing when she was small. It filled the empty space, floating through the halls like a feather on the wind. She did not know that upstairs, behind half-closed doors, Williams stood listening. He leaned against the wall, his arms folded. It had been so long since he heard any sound in this house that was not cold or heavy. Amanda's voice was not loud. It was not even in perfect tune. But it was real. Alive. He found himself standing there longer than he meant to, until Amanda moved to clean another room, and the music faded. That evening, as the sun set over the mansion, Amanda finished her work early. She decided to do something small, something she thought would make the house feel a little less lonely. She picked a few fresh flowers from the garden, tied them with a ribbon she found in the kitchen drawer, and placed them in a glass jar in the centre of the dining table. It was not much, but it was something. The next morning, when Williams came down for breakfast, he stopped. His eyes fell on the jar of wildflowers, bright, alive. He frowned at first, then looked around. Mabel came bustling into the room with a tray. "Who put that there?" Williams asked sharply. Mabel froze. I do not know, sir." Williams stared at the flowers for a long time. Finally, he said, "Leave it." Mabel looked surprised but nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." As she hurried away, Williams sat down slowly at the table. He looked at the flowers again. And for the first time in a long while, he did not feel like the walls were closing in on him. Upstairs, Amanda rocked Hope to sleep, unaware that the small thing she had done had stirred something deep in William's chest, a memory, a feeling, something he thought he had buried forever. Later that day, as Amanda dusted the library, Williams entered quietly. She jumped when she saw him. "I am sorry, sir," she said quickly, lowering her eyes. "You cleaned in here too?" Williams said, looking around. "Yes, sir," Amanda replied. "I thought maybe you would like to use the library again." Williams walked slowly to the large window. The room smelled of lemon polish and fresh air. He had not stepped into the library in 2 years, not since Isabella and Hannah's plane went down. He touched the edge of the grand desk. The dust was gone. The curtains were open, letting the golden afternoon light flood in. For a moment, Williams said nothing. Then he turned to Amanda. "You may read any of the books here when you have free time," he said, surprising himself. Amanda looked up, startled. "Thank you, sir," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And teach Hope to love books too," he added. Amanda's eyes shone with unshed tears. "I will, sir," she said. Williams nodded once and left the room, the heavy door closing gently behind him. Amanda stood there, the feather duster in her hand, feeling a strange flutter in her chest. Something was changing, something small, something powerful. And somewhere deep inside the cold walls of the mansion, a little light had been lit. It was not bright yet. It was not strong. But it was there. And sometimes, a tiny light is enough to chase away the darkest shadows. Mabel noticed it first when Amanda placed a jar of wildflowers on the dining table. Sir had paused. He had looked at it. And for the first time in 2 years, he had not barked at anyone. He had simply said, "Leave it." Mabel had frozen, tray in hand, watching the rare softness on his face. It was a look she had not seen since Madame Isabella and little Hannah were alive. Mabel bit her tongue and said nothing. but inside her heart, something twisted. At first, she told herself it was nothing. Sir Williams had simply been caught by surprise. But as the days went by, Mabel saw more. She saw the way Sir would slow down whenever he passed Amanda working in the garden. She saw how he would listen quietly when Amanda hummed Hope to sleep upstairs. One morning, she found Amanda in the library, sitting on the floor with Hope in her lap, showing her colourful pictures in a book. Sir stood at the door, watching. His arms were folded, but there was no coldness in his eyes. He almost looked human. Mabel's hands curled into fists at her side. That foolish girl did not know her place. Later that afternoon in the kitchen, Mabel slammed pots harder than necessary. Amanda stood nearby washing dishes. She said nothing, but her movements were careful, gentle, as if trying not to make Mabel even angrier. Mabel could not hold it anymore. "Feeling proud of yourself, are you?" she hissed. Amanda looked up, confused. "I do not understand." "Do not play innocent," Mabel snapped, "walking around here as if you own the place, smiling, bringing your bush habits into this house." Amanda swallowed and lowered her gaze. "I am only doing the work Sir asked me to do," she said softly. Mabel laughed coldly. "Work? Is that what you call it? Luring a man with your crocodile tears?" Amanda shook her head. "I would never—" "Save your lies," Mabel said, waving her hand sharply. "You and that child of yours. Think you can trap a rich man with pity?" Tears burned behind Amanda's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She turned back to the dishes, scrubbing harder. Hope, tied safely on Amanda's back with a cloth, stirred in her sleep at the sudden tension. Mabel leaned closer. "Just remember," she whispered, "people like you do not belong here. Sooner or later, Sir will remember that too." Without another word, she stormed out of the kitchen, her shoes clacking sharply against the tiles. Amanda stood still for a long time. Her hands trembled in the soapy water. Hope whimpered softly, feeling her mother's distress. Amanda untied her and cradled her close. "It is all right, my darling," she whispered. "We are not here to steal anything. We are only here to survive." But Mabel was not finished. Every little thing Amanda did, Mabel found a way to make it wrong. If Amanda swept the floors, Mabel would say they were dusty. If Amanda cooked the stew, Mabel would say it was too salty. If Hope cried at night, Mabel would bang on the wall and shout for silence. One evening, as Amanda folded the laundry, Mabel walked into the room without knocking. She crossed her arms. "Sir will be having an important visitor next week," she said coldly. "Real people, not beggars. Make sure you hide that child of yours when they come." Amanda stiffened. Mabel smiled cruelly, seeing the hurt flash across her face. "Sir Williams is a man of class," Mabel continued. "He cannot afford to have charity cases running about when his guests arrive." Amanda said nothing. Her hands continued folding the shirts carefully, but her heart was heavy. She wanted to shout. She wanted to scream that she was doing her best. But what good would that do? She had no power here, only patience and faith. Still, that night, as she lay beside Hope on the narrow bed, Amanda let silent tears fall onto her pillow. In another part of the mansion, Williams sat alone in his study, staring at a photo of his late wife and daughter. He could not deny that something was changing in him. The house felt less like a tomb these days. He heard baby laughter again. He smelled flowers. He caught himself wondering if Amanda was eating well, if Hope was growing strong. He had not meant for it to happen. He did not even fully understand it. But a little part of him, a small broken part, was waking up. And Mabel, watching from the shadows, saw it all. Her jealousy grew like a weed in her heart, twisting tighter and tighter. Because for the first time, Sir Williams was looking at someone else. And it was not her. The days grew colder as the week rolled on. and with each passing day, Mabel's anger deepened. She was planning something. Amanda could feel it, but she did not know what. Yet. The day of the visit arrived with a thick grey sky. Rain threatened to fall but held back, making the air heavy. Amanda woke early, bathing Hope carefully and dressing her in her neatest little dress. She pinned back her own hair and tied a clean scarf around it. In the kitchen, Mabel barked orders louder than usual. "Scrub the floor again!" she snapped. "We cannot have the guests thinking this place is dirty." Amanda obeyed, kneeling to scrub the already clean tiles. Mabel hovered above her like a hawk, arms folded, eyes hard. Sir Williams moved about quietly, speaking only when necessary. His face was unreadable. Amanda could feel the tension everywhere. Finally, around noon, a black car rolled up the long driveway. Mabel rushed to the front door, smoothing down her dress. Amanda stayed back in the kitchen, heart pounding. From where she stood, she could hear the deep voice of a man and the light laughter of a woman. Sir Williams greeted them politely but without much warmth. "This way," he said, leading them to the sitting room. Mabel strutted behind them, smiling as if she were the lady of the house. Amanda peeked around the kitchen door. The visitors were dressed in rich, shining fabrics. The man wore a sleek suit. The woman had diamond earrings that caught the light when she moved. Amanda quickly returned to the sink, washing her hands nervously. She had no business being seen by such people, but Mabel had other plans. Minutes later, Mabel appeared in the kitchen doorway, a false sweet smile on her face. "Amanda," she said loudly, making sure the visitors could hear her voice, "bring the tea tray to the sitting room." Amanda looked up, startled. "But she began. "No excuses," Mabel cut her off sharply. "Be quick." Amanda hesitated. She had never served guests before. Usually, Mabel handled such important tasks. Amanda glanced at Hope, who was playing quietly in a corner, then wiped her hands and picked up the heavy silver tray. Her palms were sweaty as she stepped into the sitting room. The visitors turned their heads toward her. The woman wrinkled her nose slightly. Amanda lowered her eyes, moving carefully across the room. But the tray was heavy, too heavy, and her hands trembled with nerves. As she reached the low glass table, one of the cups shifted. Before Amanda could steady it, the cup tipped over, spilling hot tea onto the tablecloth. A sharp gasp filled the air. Amanda froze, her cheeks burning. "I am so sorry," she whispered, grabbing a napkin quickly to blot the mess. The visiting woman leaned back in her chair, lips pressed tight in disapproval. Mabel stood by the wall, arms crossed, smiling to herself. Sir William stood slowly from his chair. His face was unreadable, but his eyes were sharp. Amanda looked up at him helplessly, her throat tight with shame. Sir Williams turned to the guests. "Please excuse her," he said calmly. "She is new here." The man chuckled politely, waving it off. "It happens," he said, but the woman was less kind. "Really, Williams," she said, dabbing her knee where a drop of tea had splashed, "you must be more careful with the kind of people you let into your house." Mabel's smile widened. Amanda felt like sinking into the ground. Hope, sensing the tension, began to whimper softly from the kitchen doorway. Sir Williams's jaw tightened. He glanced at Hope, then back at Amanda. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the room. He crossed the floor and gently took the tray from Amanda's shaking hands. "It is all right," he said, his voice firm but not unkind. "Go and check on your child." Amanda blinked at him in disbelief. Slowly she turned and hurried to Hope, lifting the baby into her arms. In the sitting room, Mabel opened her mouth to say something, but caught the warning flash in Williams's eyes and swallowed her words. The rest of the visit passed quickly. Amanda stayed out of sight, holding Hope close, heart pounding against her ribs. When the visitors finally left, Mabel stormed into the kitchen. "You see what you have done?" she hissed. You embarrassed Sir in front of important people. If you had any shame, you would pack your things and go." Amanda said nothing. She held Hope tighter, feeling small and unwanted. But deep inside, something stubborn flickered. She was not trying to embarrass anyone. She was only trying to survive. Later that evening, as the sun sank low and the house fell into deep silence, Sir Williams called Amanda to his study. She came in, heart in her mouth, Hope still clinging to her neck. William stood by the tall window, hands in his pockets. When he turned, his face was serious but not cruel. "You do not need to fear," he said simply. Amanda looked at him, confused. "I know what Mabel is trying to do," he continued, "and I know it was not your fault today." Amanda swallowed hard. "Thank you, sir," she whispered. Williams looked at Hope, who was watching him with wide, curious eyes. "You have done more good for this house than harm," he said quietly. "Do not let anyone drive you away." Amanda nodded, tears stinging her eyes. He turned back to the window, dismissing her gently. Amanda left the study, heart lighter than it had been in days. She kissed Hope's forehead and whispered, "We are safe, my baby." But she knew Mabel would not give up so easily, and neither could she. Not now, not ever. The next few days passed quietly, but Amanda could feel a shift in the air. Sir Williams no longer stayed locked away in his study all the time. Some evenings, he sat outside on the wide veranda, staring at the garden while the cool breeze played with the leaves. Amanda, careful and respectful, kept her distance. But sometimes when she thought he was not looking, she would sneak glances at him. The way his shoulders were always tense, the way his eyes looked far away, filled with a sadness that never seemed to lift. One evening, as the sky blushed pink with sunset, Hope toddled onto the veranda chasing a butterfly. Amanda ran after her, heart in her throat. "Hope! Come back!" Before she could catch the little girl, Hope bumped right into Sir William's leg. The butterfly danced away into the sky. Hope fell on her bottom, blinked up at him, then burst into a fit of giggles. Amanda froze, mortified. "I am so sorry, sir," she gasped, scooping Hope up quickly. "She did not mean to—" But Williams lifted a hand, stopping her. "It is all right," he said quietly. Hope peeked at him from Amanda's shoulder and gave a shy smile. To Amanda's shock, Williams smiled back. It was a small smile, almost too small to notice. But it was real. Amanda felt her heart stumble. Maybe, just maybe, the walls around him were cracking. Later that night, after Hope had fallen asleep, Amanda sat in the kitchen folding clean towels. Mabel entered, her eyes narrow and watchful. "So," she said coldly, "you are making yourself quite comfortable, are you not?" Amanda kept folding. "I am only doing my work," she said softly. Mabel laughed, but there was no humour in it. "Do not think I do not see what you are doing," she hissed, "worming your way into Sir's heart with that child of yours, acting all innocent." Amanda looked up, meeting Mabel's furious eyes. "I have no bad intentions," she said firmly. "I am only grateful for the roof over my head." Mabel stepped closer. "You think gratitude will keep you here forever?" she sneered. "You are nothing but a charity case, and people like you are easily replaced." Amanda's hands clenched the towel tighter. Mabel leaned in, voice low and dangerous. "You will regret it," she whispered. "Mark my words." With that, she spun on her heel and left the kitchen, her footsteps echoing sharply. Amanda sat still, heart pounding. She had no idea what Mabel was planning, but she knew one thing: it would not be good. The next morning, Amanda was sweeping the front steps when William's voice startled her. "You are up early," he said. Amanda straightened quickly, brushing dust from her hands. "Good morning, sir," she said, lowering her eyes. He walked down the steps, hands in his pockets. "How is the child?" he asked. Amanda smiled a little. "She is well, sir. She loves running around your garden." Williams nodded. There was an awkward silence. Amanda did not know if she should speak or stay quiet. After a moment, Williams cleared his throat. "My wife used to grow sunflowers here," he said suddenly, pointing to a bare patch of soil. Amanda looked, surprised by the sadness in his voice. "They were her favorite," he continued. "And my daughter. She would run among them until we could not find her." He chuckled softly, but there was no joy in it. Amanda's heart ached for him. "I am sorry for your loss, sir," she said gently. William stared at the empty garden bed. 2 years ago," he said. "They were on a plane to Abuja. It never landed." Amanda swallowed hard, unsure what to say. "It broke me," he said simply. The wind whispered through the trees. Amanda wanted to say something comforting, something wise, but all she could do was stand there and share his silence. Sometimes that was enough. Williams turned back to the house. "Maybe you and Hope can plant something there," he said quietly. Amanda's eyes widened. "Sir?" He shrugged. "The place could use some life." Before she could answer, he walked away, his figure disappearing into the house. Amanda touched the broom lightly, her chest tight with emotion. He was healing, even if he did not realize it. And maybe, somehow, she and Hope were helping him find his way back. But from the upstairs window, Mabel watched it all. Her hands gripped the curtain so tightly her knuckles turned white. It was not supposed to be like this. So Williams was supposed to remain cold, distant, alone. He was not supposed to smile at some village girl and her noisy child. Mabel's lips pressed into a hard line. If Amanda would not leave on her own, Mabel would have to make sure she had no choice. And this time, she would not fail. The next few days felt different in the mansion. Warmer somehow. Amanda noticed it in the small things. The way Sir Williams no longer spoke so stiffly. The way he sometimes stayed longer in the garden where Hope played. Even the way he asked Amanda small questions about her day. At first, Amanda answered carefully, afraid it was some sort of test. But when she saw the honest interest in his eyes, her heart began to loosen. One evening, as the sun dipped low and golden light poured across the veranda, Williams found Amanda sitting under the big mango tree with Hope. The little girl was busy stacking small stones into a crooked tower. Amanda looked up, startled. "Good evening, sir," she said, rising quickly. Williams waved a hand, stopping her. "No need to stand," he said. "I just wanted some air." He moved slowly toward them, his steps steady, and sat down on the low garden bench a few feet away. Hope, seeing him, grinned and toddled over to show him her pile of stones. Williams leaned forward, studying the wobbly tower with a seriousness that made Amanda smile. "You built this yourself?" he asked Hope. Hope nodded proudly. Williams reached into his pocket and pulled out a shiny silver pen. "Here," he said, balancing it carefully on top of the stones. "Every tower needs a flag." Hope clapped her hands in delight. Amanda watched them, something warm blooming in her chest. For a long time, the three of them stayed there, bathed in the golden sunset, the only sounds the soft chirping of evening crickets. From the upstairs window, Mabel watched with burning eyes. She gripped the windowsill so hard her fingers hurt. It was unbearable. Sir Williams, the man who hardly spoke to anyone for 2 years, was now laughing softly with a dirty village girl and her bastard child. Mabel turned from the window, pacing the room like a trapped animal. It was not fair. It was supposed to be her standing beside him. It was supposed to be her healing his broken heart. Not Amanda. Never Amanda. Down in the garden, Williams turned to Amanda. "You are good with her," he said quietly. Amanda looked down, embarrassed. "I try, sir," she said. "She is all I have." Williams was silent for a moment. Then he spoke again, voice low. "She reminds me of my daughter sometimes." Amanda's eyes widened. "I am sorry, sir," she said softly. Williams shook his head. "No," he said. "It is not a bad thing." He looked at Hope, who was now trying to climb onto the bench beside him. "It reminds me that not everything is lost," he said. Amanda felt tears sting her eyes, but she blinked them away quickly. "I am sure your daughter would have been proud of you," Amanda said. William smiled, a real smile this time. "Thank you," he said. Hope finally managed to pull herself up onto the bench. She beamed at Williams and patted his arm as if to say, "See? I did it." Amanda laughed softly. For the first time in a long while, Williams laughed too, a deep, rich sound that seemed to surprise even him. Amanda looked at him, and for a second, she could almost see the man he had been before sadness had carved deep lines into his face. Not the cold, distant CEO, not the powerful politician, just a man who had once loved and lost and was now slowly learning to live again.